Now, the war in Syria is causing an already volatile region to become even more unsettled as the conflict spills across its borders to countries like Lebanon. When armed clashes erupt, locals tend to call friends and family for the latest news about which roads are safe and which neighbourhoods to avoid. But a number of entrepreneurs in Lebanon are creating apps that can help people stay informed and safe. In fact, the one just behind me now is called Happen, and this shows where there have been incidents of violence, which roads are dangerous as well. Let's speak to the Lebanese telecommunication engineer Firas Vazneh, who is the brainchild behind one of these apps, and the BBC's social media producer Samantha Barry, who is with me now. Firas, if I come to you first of all, we've already seen one in action. We were having a look at it today. I know you're creating something new. Just explain how these things work and how many people need to get involved to make it worthwhile.
I'm working with a team of engineers to develop a mobile and PC application that will detect within 30 seconds of firing the source location of gunfire. It's done by sound triangulation and sound pattern recognition. Whenever you have the application installed on your phone and several users have it installed, if you hear a gunshot, you send to me at the server side the time when you hear the gunshot, and several phones also send the time. The difference in time that the signal of the sound signal will arrive to you, that will determine the source location of the shooter. And hopefully with pattern recognition we'll know the type of weapon used and with the number of bullets fired.
And that technology already exists, doesn't it? But it's very expensive. I think it's used in the United States, for example, by some police forces there.
Yes. Yeah, it's used in the United States under a company called ShotSpotter. The thing is, they highly dependent on infrastructure and they're not very scalable because to compensate that lack in scalability, we use the already existing infrastructure from mobile phones, and that will make it deployable around the world without the need for maintenance, electricity and other sensors, etc.
It's interesting, isn't it, how social apps are being used across the border also by the Syrian army and the rebels as well. How much interest is being shown in your project, and what sort of cost would be involved to set this up?
Cost-wise, it's basically research. The biggest part will be research and development, which is kind of neglected in this part of the world. So there is interest, but not enough.
All right, well, look, stay with us first. Samantha Barry, what do you make of this? Because as I was saying to Firas, I think Chicago police use it, don't they? So it is up and running, but very expensive.
Up and running and very expensive. And people that are consumers may understand, you know, the app Shazam, which just uses audio to locate a song. This is taking it to a whole other level, where they use acoustics to look at the muzzle sound, to look at the bullet shot, and you need people playing into this app in order for it to work. And most of these apps in these conflict areas that work, they're crowdsourced apps. So they're dependent on a lot of people. There's a lot of crowdsourced mapping that goes on. In Egypt, there was crowdsourced mapping looking at the instances of violence against women in Tahrir Square. Same is happening in Syria. Women under siege are mapping that. A lot of them are dependent on everybody getting involved in the community. But as you said, even the Syrian army and the Syrian resistance and the rebels are using apps. They have their own app, which translated means only you, where they can access maps of Syria. They can track number of deaths in certain villages and towns. So new technology is changing the way that conflict is played out.
Yeah, and when you think back, say, the wars in Bosnia, if this technology had been available then, so many lives could have been saved.
And yeah, so many lives could have been saved. And also, it's not just those people in the region that are getting involved. Verification is what's happening with a lot of the apps, and you see the case where a gentleman here in the UK, Elliot Wiggins, has now become an expert on weaponry in Syria because he's gone through 400 YouTube channels and he's detailed what armoury and what weaponry is being used in different villages and different towns.
Firas, I mean, Samantha picks up on the problem here that, you are going to need tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people to get involved. Otherwise, that triangulation technology simply isn't going to be able to identify what's happened, is it?
Yeah, we don't. In areas of conflict, people will download it instantly, but the number of people that I need is about 20 people in a square mile area.
Oh, right.
So it's relatively small.
So not that many. So just give us an idea, though, about what happens now. I mean, it's a very pragmatic Lebanese reaction when you think you were in civil war for so many years. I suppose it means that people can carry on living in Lebanon rather than leaving themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Now you'll know, this knowledge of who's shooting will go directly to the security agencies and the media.
And what response have you had from the security agencies about this?
I've applied for a couple of permissions from the Ministry of Defense to get access to a shooting range to record and make the sound database, but bureaucracy, what can I say?
Bureaucracy. Okay. And Samantha, just a final thought from you. We've seen the social apps being used across the border in Syria as well. Has anything like this been used, though, in a civil war before?
Not that I've come across, but what's quite interesting what you were talking about is the security forces are getting involved, and the Lebanese army just this week have actually launched their own app, which is LAF Shield, and one of the most interesting things that app does is that if you are the victim of a kidnap, it gives you a communication route straight through to the military command. So it's quite an interesting app that the governments and military are coming up with.
All right, okay, Samantha and Firas Bouazneh, thank you both very much indeed. One to download on your phone perhaps in a few months' time.